Hello everyone, I'm Craig Gilchrist, and in this quick video I'm going to show you how to use our Unreal SDK, which at the moment allows local recording and instant access to your MetaQuest library. So as soon as you finish recording, the video's there. So I'm going to take you through it in a couple of steps. First, I'll do the really quick version, so to get you up and running, and then we'll delve a little bit more into the SDK and how you can use it in more advanced ways. Okay, so let's start with a quick demo of how it actually works. So here I have a pre-built project. I am just going to build and run it and show you the results. Okay, so this is just using the Oculus casting. So what I'll do is I'll just turn on a preview. And you can see the preview of what will be recorded here. I can switch the camera and actually do a third-person camera, but just for this recording, I'm gonna record what I'm seeing. So I'll just grab the guns, shoot a little bit, and I will stop recording. Now, if I open my library, files, media, see the video I've just recorded is available straight away. And there's the video. Okay, so we're going to recreate what we've just seen as a desktop application. The reason for doing a desktop application is it's easier for me to show the editor and show it playing. But it works exactly the same if you want to do it in a VR template. The only difference is where the video is stored. The video is stored in the default location on Windows, or it's stored actually directly into your library if you're on Android, which means the MetaQuest library if you're running on a MetaQuest. And that's available and gets automatically synced, and you can share and do all of the features that you normally would from the MetaQuest. So let's start with a brand new project. And I'm going to use the top-down project, and I'll just call this recording example. Okay. So that's our project. So what you want to do first is head over to GitHub and go to github.com/BeamXR-IO. And then when you're there, you can have a look at our repositories and go to the Unreal Recording repository. If you hit code, you can download the whole thing as a zip, which I've already done. And then if you head over to developers.beamxr.io, if you've not already registered, it's completely free to do so, and you can do it really quickly. You can use a single sign-on, and then you want to create an experience, and from that experience you want to grab the key and the secret. This is one I've already created in advance, but it's really easy to do. And then let's head over to our project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see the where I've opened the project. So this is our recording example. I'm going to create a new folder called plugins, and separately I'm going to open up where I downloaded the code for the SDK from GitHub. And I'm going to drag the BeamXR SDK into the projects. Now for this SDK to be picked up, I'll just have to close the project and open it again. So you can see it says new plugins are available. If I search for Beam, you'll see that the BeamXR SDK version 0.5 is already ticked and installed. First thing we want to do is set up our project settings. So if we go to Edit and Project Settings, we'll see there's a section under Game called BeamXR SDK. And this is where you want to paste your key and secret. So just going to hit the copy button there, pop that in, and hit the copy button there, and pop that in there. And if I set this as the default, that will get applied as an ini file for other developers. And that's pretty much ready to go. Now, if you think back to the demonstration I did on the Quest, I used a widget menu to toggle the start and stop recording. So we're going to do exactly the same. First thing we want to do is let's have a quick look at the top-down blueprints. And if I just press play, you can see here we've got the top-down character, and the camera is always in the same place. So if I stop that now, you'll see that that is because we have this top-down character, and in the top-down character we have a spring arm, and if I zoom out, we have this camera. And this is the camera that we're going to record first, and then I'll show you how to record a separate camera if you want to. Let's close this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user interface widget blueprint. We'll choose user widget and we'll call this recording menu. Okay, let's open that up. Let's add a panel. So I'll use a canvas panel, and then I will use a vertical box, and I'm going to anchor that to the top right. Let's do -420. So I'm going to make it 400 wide, 20 from the top, 400 wide, and let's do 200 tall. Okay. So in that vertical box, let's add a button. We'll call this toggle recording. And to that button, we'll add some text. Oh, I missed. Try that again. We'll add some text. Yep. And we'll call the text toggle recording label. We'll set that as a variable too. Okay, let's compile that. Very quickly, if I press play now, the menu isn't appearing, and that's because it's not set in our game mode. So let's have a look. Our game mode is BP top-down game mode. So let's open that up. Let's have a look at the blueprint. And so what we want to do is on begin play, we're just going to add our widget to the screen. So we'll call create widget, choosing our recording menu. And then we will add widget. No. There you go. It's add to viewport. Add that to the viewport. Let's compile and save that. And if I press play now, yeah, we've got our text block up there. So nice and simple. We're going to start and stop our recording with this button here. So if we go back to our widget and let's look at the graph. I'm not going to do anything in pre-construct or tick, but I am going to construct our menu. Sorry, I'm going to set up some defaults for our menu in the constructor. So our main component runs as an engine subsystem, So if I look at engine subsystems, we've got this get BeamXR recording manager, and the recording manager is the main component that does all of the recordings. The first thing we want to do, well, the first thing to consider is that the recording manager does everything asynchronously, and it has a few things that it can do. It can show a widget, hide the widget, I can start recording to either a camera component or a cine camera component, and I can stop recording. And it also raises events for each of those things. Because it runs asynchronously, it will raise an event when the preview is activated or deactivated, and it will raise events for when the recording starts, a recording stops, or if the recording fails to start as well. So first thing we want to do is let's start with let's get our recording label and just set the text. We know we're not recording when we first start, so let's set the text to start recording. And what we also want to do is, let's have a look at the code again, and our button. When the button's clicked, we want to start the recording if it's not recording, and we want to stop the recording if it is recording. So we'll add an on-clicked event to that button. And first thing we'll do is we'll check. We can either, the Beam Recording Manager gives us a function to check if it's recording or not. So what we can do is we can use this, and we can say, sorry, I forgot to wire that. We can use that, and we can say, let's check to see if we're already recording. So we've got this BeamXR submenu that has all of the different things that we can do in recording. Let's do is recording is a function, and from that we'll branch the logic. So we'll say if we are recording, just going to swap these two around just so it's a little bit tidier. So when we click, check to see if we're already recording. If we are recording, I'm just going to call stop recording. And that's it. Don't need to do anything else there. And if we're not recording, I want to start recording. So I'll choose start recording camera. You just bear in mind as well that you can also record cine cameras. They're separate because the logic is slightly separate in the way that underlying function records them. Okay, so what we have here is a target FPS for our recording, a file name suffix, so I'll just call this example. Cool. Example.mp4. A resolution, so we can do 320 up to 1080p, and we can do the same as well in portrait. So let's start with 720. And then what we also need is a component for the actual camera that we want to record. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little function called getCurrentCamera. I'm going to make that a pure function, and I'll do an output node, a return node, sorry. I think the code, yeah, return node. And I'll call this return value, and that will be a camera component. A reference to our camera component. So if we go back to our menu, sorry, our top-down character, this is where our camera is. So what we need to do is find an instance, the instance of our top-down character, and look for its child components and return the camera from that child component. So if I go back to our menu and look at the graph, in our get current camera, first thing I get get all actors of class, and I'll choose our BP top-down character. So this is going to give me an array. I know there's only one instance of this running, so I'm going to use the get copy array function to pull the one instance I want. And I know that that has a child component. So I want to find that component, get component by class, and I want the camera component from there, and that's going to be our return value. And I just need to join up our execution thread, and that should give us, always give us back the current camera. So now I can use this whenever I want the camera, and I can drag this up here, and that is ready to start recording. However, remember I said that it's asynchronous, so I'm just going to bind two more events. The first one is if I get another, get the recording manager again, our engine subsystem, and I want to bind to our on recording started. I'll do this on construction, so let's wire that up. And I also want to, just to keep it neat, I want to do on recording stopped. Don't want to bind. It's easier if I assign on recording stop. And these are our two events for starting and stopping recording. What I want to do here is change the text of our label. So if it started, I want to set the text to stop recording. Let's wire that. And if it stopped, I want to change it back to start recording. Let's continue our execution thread. So on our constructor, we set the text to start recording, and we bind our on recording started event and our on recording stopped event. What I'm also going to do, just so it's nice and simple, and thread safe, because this runs asynchronously, is when we click, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disable that button. So I'm going to disable it. Set is enabled to false. And then I'll branch. And that just stops us trying to start recordings multiple times or stop recordings multiple times. And then what I'll do is I'm going to copy and paste this same thing back up here. And I'll re-enable it. I'm going to paste that here and here. But this time I'm going to re-enable it. So that should give us, if I compile this now, that should give us everything we need to start and stop recording. So if I press play, press start recording. If I look at the output log, we can see it started recording. And I'll just run around a little bit. If I stop that recording and go back to this one, if I go back to the recording example and I go to saved, we'll see example.mp4. And if I open that up, that has our 720p, because that's what we chose, recording of what I've just done. that's your very basic setting up recording using the BeamXR Unreal SDK. What I'll do next is I'll show you how to show and hide a preview, and maybe choose a different camera, because especially in VR, we don't always want those 6 degrees of freedom to be the thing that we record for video on demand, because watching back those 6 degrees of freedom can sometimes be a little bit janky. We might want a nice camera that's dampened or stays vertical and or does all those kind of things. Eventually we'll hit parity with our Unity SDK, which has a director kit that allows you full control of all of that whilst you're in VR, and nice panels and controls. But for now, we've started with the recording, the basic recording. We'll add the director kit, and then we'll also add the streaming that we have in our Unity project as well. So that's the basic recording. Let's jump in now, and we'll wire up a new button for toggling a preview. So if I open the menu again, we already have a widget for video previews. So we have a widget. It's called Widget Camera Preview. Let's drop that in, and I'm just going to set it to a ratio. I'm going to anchor this to the top left. Let's give it 20 padding, and we'll set it to a ratio of like 1920 by 1080, but obviously we'll make it much smaller. So let's do 108 times 2, 182 times 2. Those are the wrong way around, so let's do that way around. And that's our 16 by 9 aspect ratio, and this will be our preview. So what I'm going to do as well is let's add another couple of buttons, another button to toggle that preview on and off. Let's put some padding around this one. I'm just going to copy it and call this one toggle preview, and the text I'll call toggle preview label. Alright, so one thing that we don't have with the preview that we do have with the recording is a function to tell us if we are showing the preview or not. So we'll do that with our own variable. Let's call it is preview active. And let's wire up our preview, toggle preview on click button. Now this one is asynchronous, but it's really, really quick, so I'm not going to worry too much about enabling or disabling it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to change the text on whether the preview's on or off, and I'll set that. I know when we first start that it is off, so let's do set the label, set text to show preview. We'll just interrupt this flow a little bit because we know this is happening on the constructor. And then what I'll do here is first we'll get the instance again, and we'll branch from here, and the condition will be whether the preview is active or not. So if the preview is active, we want to stop the preview. If it's inactive, we want to start the preview. So let's do start preview. Swap this around a little bit. And let's do stop preview. So if the preview is active, true, then we want to stop the preview. And if it's inactive, we want to start the preview. Now the component this is asking for is our camera component, and remember we have our function to do that. So let's just drag that into there. And that should be everything I need there. However, we also have events for when the preview is activated and deactivated. So I'm going to use those same events and I'm going to add them to this constructor flow. And I'm going to assign on preview activated. Let's continue this flow. And we'll also do on preview deactivated. Nope, I missed again. Okay. And this, all we're going to do here is when it's activated, we're going to set this to true. And when it's deactivated, we're going to set this variable to false. Oh, false. And then we'll set the text of our label to so activated. We want the opposite, so we'll say hide preview. Preview. And this one we want to say show preview. Okay, let's wire that there. Let's wire that there. Okay, that should be everything we need to show our preview. If I compile this now and press play. Oh, I don't think I've set the text block properly, so let's go back to that. Let's go back to our graphs. Toggle recording label. Start recording. Oh, toggle recording label again. That's not the one we want. We want the preview label. Let's just check. I've got a feeling I did the same. Yeah, I did the same here. Set our targets to the preview label. Well, let's just check here as well. That's fine. Okay, let's try that again. Let's press play. Okay, so we've got show preview. If I click this, you will get this preview in the top left. It's basically the same view that we're looking at, and I can hide the preview. Let's quickly change it around a little bit, because we could do like a portrait view. We could change the logic, and we can change the let's change these aspect ratios round so that it's 216:384, so it's more of a portrait view. And in our recording, let's set the recording when we start to, let's do 1080p portrait. If I press play on this now, show the preview. You see it's a little bit stretched there. If I start the recording, just run around a little bit and stop the recording. If I look at this now, you should see a really nice, yeah, so we've got a 1080p recording of that same camera. That's what a better thing to do maybe is to show a different camera to what what the player's seeing, and that could be event based. So if it's a VR game, for example, and they're climbing the stairs and you want to show a camera at the top of those stairs and show the person's avatar, or it might be something like a survival horror game and you want to show the perspective from the predator rather from the player as the prey. The way you would do that would be with a separate camera. So what we'll do, if we look at this viewport again, we have our camera. I'm just going to use tags to, I'll call this main camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add another camera. And I'll call this first person camera, FP camera, and we'll add a tag to this one and we'll call it first person. I'm just going to move this a little bit up to say roughly eye view. And then what we can do is we could change the let's get rid of this. We can change the field of view a little bit to make it a little bit more shallow, just so that we can see it looks very different to the other camera. Okay, if I close that now, let's go back to our recording menu and let's look at our get current camera. So before we were getting the component by class, let's now get it by tag. So I'm sure there's a, get components by tag. There might even be a get singular component by tag. No, it looks like plural. That's fine. So we know the component is a camera component and the tag is first person. And we know that's going to give us an array of 1. So let's do copy. We'll get the single instance out and that will be our return value instead. Let's compile that and go back here and press play. So now if I show the preview, we've got this first person preview. If I start recording and run around, and stop recording, if we go back to the project and go to saved, we'll see that now we have a portrait view of my gameplay. So that shows you how you can change the camera. You could change the camera view, physically move the camera when you on key events, all that kind of thing in your own game logic. But that really gets you started. It shows you how to start and stop recording, how to show and hide the preview, and how to branch your logic and use different cameras for recording to what you might do, what the player might be seeing. As I mentioned earlier, we will be reaching parity with our our Unity versions of the SDK. So that means what we will add to this is we'll add the director kit that allows much more control over to allow the player to change the recording in-game with some nice components and UI components that they can move and drag around and set presets and things with. And then we'll add the direct streaming that we have in our Unity SDK. So you'll be able to stream closed stream to your private BeamXR live link so that you can stream and just show your friends on the internet, or direct to Twitch and TikTok and YouTube Live with our powerful video forwarding units. So we'll get all of those in the Unreal SDK, but we really wanted to give you some good tooling to get started. Drop it in, get it up and running, and then as we're building on it, we'll let you know. And the best place to find all of that information and for us to give you regular updates is in our Discord. So if you head over to that, I'll drop a link in the video and we'll see you there.